Assalamualaikum and a good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Alina Osman and I'm pleased to be representing the SC to share the outcome of the Regtech industry survey that had been undertaken by the SC quite recently, as well as to highlight SC's focus and strategy on Regtech implementation. For the benefit of those who may not be familiar with Regtech, let me start with a quick introduction of what is Regtech. Very briefly, regulatory technology or Regtech is the use of technologies towards managing regulatory and compliance requirements, and it's often regarded as a subset of Fintech. Now, Regtech has gained much traction globally and increasingly becoming center stage for businesses to adopt. So why Regtech? Generally because of increased operational effectiveness and or efficiency and savings in terms of cost and or time. And Regtech enables intermediaries to, among others, expand coverage, improve consistency, improve data quality, reduce the risk of manual intervention, and enable more time spent on value-add activities. There's a whole spectrum of Regtech capabilities to improve operational effectiveness and efficiency. Some specific applications are indicated in the slide. As you can see here, there's compliance workflow, risk reporting, identity management and control, transaction monitoring, trade surveillance, conduct surveillance, suitability assessment, and product assessment. And they all broadly enable these three objectives, among others. Enhance compliance with regulatory requirements, enhance risk management, as well as automate and streamline regulatory reporting. As I mentioned, the SC had recently undertaken a Regtech industry survey. The SC had carried out this survey to take stock of the state of play of the demand side of Regtech, that is relating to the adoption of Regtech among selected 34 brokers and fund managers, which is crucial to the SC in charting its course to catalyze Regtech adoption in the capital market. The feedback from the survey provided invaluable input to better understand the state of play for the demand of Regtech, intermediaries' views, issues and challenges, among others. The objectives of the survey were to understand the existing Regtech solutions in use by capital market intermediaries and the maturity of Regtech adoption, understand the key drivers and main challenges, barriers in adopting Regtech, and obtain views and feedback from licensed intermediaries on plans to pursue the adoption of Regtech. The survey covered 12 key questions, which seeks to inform the SC on, among others, the status of adoption, the maturity level, industry prioritization, barriers and challenges, as well as spending on Regtech. As I mentioned just now, the survey covered 34 broking and fund management intermediaries, and basically they're from amongst the systemically important financial institutions, CFIs, and non-CFIs, with representation from local, foreign, and also including the digital investment management companies. Okay, here I'd like to share our first observation. Basically, in terms of maturity of adoption, the highest was for managing risk activities related to anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. And this covers customer due diligence and risk assessment, ongoing monitoring of business relationship, transaction monitoring. In the area of compliance and risk management, the highest maturity is for risk management, followed by compliance with security requirements and automated compliance checks against existing regulation and internal procedures. And other use cases include monitoring and management of regulatory developments, compliance with investor protection requirements, and regulatory supervisory reporting. Relatively high Regtech adoption is also seen for managing sales practices and suitability assessment, as well as managing conflicts of interest. The managing of conflicts of interest here is mainly pertaining to monitoring and surveillance of employees. The second observation that I'd like to share is on the expenditure of Regtech. Broadly, expenditure on Regtech solutions as a portion of total ICT appear to be on an increasing trend throughout the 3-year survey. There appears to be a significant increase in the amount of spent on Regtech in 2020 compared to 2019, particularly by the fund management industry. Foreign entities are observed to have higher budget allocation on Regtech development and maintenance compared to the local entities. This is likely to be in line with their overall group policy, where optimization of ICT is considered a critical part of business operations. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, in terms of projected Regtech expenditure in 2021, amongst respondents from the fund management companies, we see that 65% of respondents projected an increase of their Regtech expenditure in 2021, and 35% of respondents projected to maintain their Regtech expenditure in 2021. Whereas for the broking industry, we see 85% of respondents project to increase their Regtech expenditure in 2021, and 15% of respondents projected to maintain their Regtech expenditure in 2021. The next observation is with regards to how Regtech solutions are being developed. We see significant reliance on third-party service providers in the adoption of Regtech solutions across industries, size, and structure. Whilst using third-party service providers is the predominant approach, in-house development remains viable. Another observation that I'd like to share with you today is with regards to the feedback on internal changes that intermediaries undertook or necessary change that took place for the Regtech adoption. The survey indicated that intermediaries that had undergone the most changes are broking industry, larger intermediaries, and locally structured intermediaries. And this could be due to the fact that foreign-related intermediaries may already have most of their Regtech essentials in place. Broadly, as you can see across from the slide, you can see that significant efforts of internal change have been concentrated on the areas indicated in the chart. Firstly, training internal staff, this is TOPS, followed by upgrade of ICT infrastructure. Then it's about hiring skilled professionals, and to a lesser extent is changes to the organizational structure. Feedback was also sought on what would be the priority ranking in respect of having the most benefit and or impact by adopting Regtech. Here we see on the left side of the screen, which is the priority ranking by the industry. Here respondents rank compliance and risk management as the highest priority, followed by anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing and fraud-related. Compliance and risk management here is in relation to monitoring and management of regulatory developments, automated compliance checks against existing regulation and internal procedures, as well as compliance with investor protection and security standards, reporting, risk management, which is, and also risk management which is not related to anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. And the fraud related here is in relation to Regtech for fraud detection. On the right side, feedback was also sought on the areas of the Regtech adoption. And this includes its level of implementation, whether in use, under development, or under consideration, as mentioned earlier in the presentation. Now, the highest use case is for anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing, followed by use in sales practices, including suitability assessments and managing conflicts of interest. And then we'll see that for the anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing includes harnessing Regtech for customer due diligence and risk assessment, ongoing monitoring of business relationship and transaction monitoring. Whereas for the third highest in terms of adoption is on managing conflicts of interest, and here is in respect of monitoring and surveillance of employees. Now, the comparison shows that except for the anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing, areas prioritized by industry have yet to see commensurate Regtech adoption. And here there's a need to better understand as to why this is so. Next, we come to the barriers and challenges of Regtech adoption, which may explain as to the mismatch. It is important to understand the challenges and barriers faced in adopting Regtech. Are there any prevalent issues or challenges faced with the application of the technology or the system? For example, the 18 factors. Is it the budget constraints, skills and expertise? Is it management directives? Or are there external factors affecting, for example, regulatory rules or policies that cause barriers to innovation or adoption of technology solutions for specific areas of application? Or is it technical issues? Maybe data is not in the form that can be easily digitized. Maybe there's complex legacy infrastructure, which renders solution development and implementation challenging. Or is it the cost of implementation? Now, based on the industry feedback, what we see is that cost and value recognition was the main reason. And here we're talking about relates to budgeting, unclear about the value savings as well as value generation from Regtech. And regardless of size, both large and small intermediaries have identified costs and unclear value recognition and savings from Regtech as a major barrier. Secondly, lack of expertise and skill set mismatch. Thirdly, dependency on external factors, reliability and due diligence on vendors, data privacy and cybersecurity issues, and lack of suitable solutions. Fourthly, operational issues, interoperability with existing internal IT structures and other Regtech solutions, data readiness, business continuity planning, latency from overload of network system capacity, and operational issues seem more pertinent amongst the smaller intermediaries and possibly due to the legacy issues of the smaller structures. Operational issues also seem more pertinent in the fund management industry. And lastly is internal policies. We see its lagging transformation, the risk appetite, as well as management support. So in summary, here are the key insights from the Regtech survey. Firstly, there's a need to understand why areas prioritized by the industry, that is the compliance and risk management and fraud detection that I mentioned earlier, have yet to see commensurate Regtech adoption. And secondly, overall Regtech adoption remains relatively low. And there is a need for greater knowledge sharing and awareness programs to overcome the barrier of value recognition, improve visibility for Regtech, build momentum for Regtech ecosystem, and drive interest. Thirdly, important to strengthen the Regtech ecosystem in Malaysia, and this includes Regtechpreneurs, be it homegrown or foreign providers, and internal capabilities of intermediaries themselves. And in all of the above, there's a need for collaborations and partnership between market participants, ecosystem players, startups, accelerators, as well as the Securities Commission. Regtech is indeed a key part of the SC agenda. One of the regulatory thrusts of the Capital Market Master Plan 3 is embracing the digital age, wherein in one of the strategic considerations is to encourage the embrace of Regtech amongst capital market participants and facilitating growth in Regtech innovation given its potential. The SC's approach to Regtech can be broadly put into three buckets. Firstly, expand Regtech knowledge. The SC has initiated engagements with market participants and technical experts to identify areas where Regtech has the greatest impact and understand the barriers or challenges of Regtech adoption. and inputs from these engagements is being used to determine the developmental efforts to facilitate and promote Regtech adoption. Secondly, is to catalyze Regtech innovation. Here, we're talking about having collaborative platforms which will be put in place to facilitate industry-wide discussions to synthesize innovative ideas on Regtech. Events such as hackathons or tech sprints will be considered to catalyze Regtech development in areas that could potentially unlock significant value for the capital market, and where relevant regulatory guidance can be provided to help Regtech solution providers navigate through regulatory requirements in the Malaysian capital market. And thirdly, the third bucket is to encourage Regtech adoption. It is about understanding market needs and barriers to the adoption of Regtech, and collaborative efforts with broader industry is key. This could include efforts to facilitate greater information sharing within the capital market about potential Regtech solutions, innovations and best practices, and collaboration to implement pilots, particularly in emerging Regtech areas. So this comes to the end of my presentation this afternoon. Should you have any inquiries and or suggestions relating to Regtech, these can be channeled to scregtech@setcom.com.my. Thank you.